All right, guys, happy Wednesday. So we're gonna just, again, stay consistent. We're gonna go over what we have programmed today in its entirety, and then we'll follow up with some additional videos speaking specifically to the movements as well as modifications and some standards we wanna make sure we're all on the same page with. So starting with the strength, it's gonna be a little bit different today in terms of the target. Most of the time when we do strength in here, we're gonna be scoring a weight or total weight moved. Today we're actually going to be doing time. So the movement that we're gonna be working on is a squat snatch. Again, we'll talk about the specifics of that here shortly. But we're gonna do 5 sets of 5 squat snatches. First thing to note is these reps do not have to be unbroken. They can be maybe in the beginning if you're feeling good and the energy's there. But again, these can be singles. You can do a combination of singles and touch and goes, whatever you kind of feel best here. The percentages are listed here: 60, 65, 70, 75, 80. And again, this is gonna be of your 1 rep squat snatch weight. So again, if you're kind of looking at this the night before, come in maybe with these weights written down in terms of what your target's gonna be. But you're gonna wanna run a clock for this. So 3, 2, 1, go. You will complete your 5 reps each time, but you'll have a 1-minute rest in between sets. This is a mandatory rest. So what you're gonna note at the end of your 5th set, after your 5th rep, is the total time that it took you to complete the 25 reps. Again, this has a mandatory 1-minute rest, so having a whiteboard nearby is gonna probably be beneficial. Then the WOD for today, Bergeron beat test. So anytime you see Bergeron beat test, you probably get nervous like I do. But what this is gonna be is somewhat of a chipper format with some biking in the middle. So what we're gonna do is 3 rounds, so 3, 2, 1, go, 3 rounds of 3 Bergeron beat tests. 1 round of the beat test includes 7 thrusters, 7 pull-ups, 7 burpees. The weight at the thruster is gonna be 75 pounds, so a little bit lighter than like a traditional Fran. But again, the goal here is to go hard and quick and kind of get in that dark spot. So 3 rounds of the Bergeron beat test. So again, total of 21 reps for this first part, followed by 50 calories for the men on the bike, 35 for the ladies. Again, 3 rounds of the Bergeron beat test. Again, that's a cumulative of 21 reps total, followed by another 50 calories on the bike. And then finishing up with 3 Bergeron beat tests. Again, the goal today is gonna be sub 16 with a cap of 19. Again, anytime you see bike or a row, again, try to find a metric on there that kind of makes sense to you, but do everything you can to try to stay consistent. So for me, the far right hand corner, I believe it says RPMs. I try to keep that number fairly consistent when I fatigue. So if I feel myself starting to slack back, I'll look at that and I'll just try to find a number there that I could try to maintain as consistent as possible for the entire 50 reps. So that's what we have set up for today. Now let's go ahead and talk about some of the specific movements. All right, guys, let's go ahead and kind of walk through a little bit of the specifics surrounding the squat snatch. So squat snatch in general is probably what I categorize as one of those movements that is probably one of the most challenging Olympic lifts we do in here. First, primarily because of our grip position, right? We're not really super comfortable being extended, kind of in that wide grip position. So again, what we're gonna hit on too is making sure that we're far enough out with our hands to allow kind of that nice smooth pass through of the bar. And then secondly, trying to land in a squat position. That kind of typically happens over a progression of time. But again, in terms of kind of what we want to pay attention to today, we want to be really specific about going light and making sure that we're kind of going through that full range of motion, not only with our grip position, but making sure we finish in the bottom of an overhead squat. So again, some of the specifics to start, right, is our foot position. Again, I always like to start from the floor and work my way up. So again, I'm starting with my feet just under my shoulders. Again, in a nice aggressive broad jump or high jump position. One of the things I like to always tell members is when they get in here and we're going over the snatch is put the bar in our hip crease here. And then what I want to do is straighten my elbows, right? However far that puts my hands out, that's where I want to be. So for me, I'm not extremely tall, but my hands are probably an inch or so outside that last, what we call knurling, that smooth line. And this is a good starting position for the snatch. So again, each snatch is going to go from the floor, right? So we want to be thinking about very similar characteristics within a snatch as we would a clean. So we're going to be nice and controlled. That bar is going to pass above our knees, right? Once that bar begins to elevate above our knees, that's when we do what we call that triple extension, our hips, knees, shoulders, right? Getting all the way up on our toes. And it's that momentum that's going to carry the bar over our head. Notice I'm trying to land the bottom of a overhead squat, okay? What we tend to see sometimes in here is we'll usually do that snatch, and then we'll get comfortable And then we'll try to hit that overhead squat. As much as your ability will allow you today, I would encourage you to go lighter with the weight and really work on the fluidity of that transition, right? So all the principles of a good overhead squat apply here. I want my elbows externally rotated. I want to be pushing up through my midline. I want this bar splitting the middle of my head. So again, a lot to be thinking about there with the squat snatch. I would encourage you in the beginning when you get here, maybe add a little bit extra PVC pipe work, not just with pass-throughs, but again, really feeling comfortable on kind of taking that one movement overhead, and then again, finishing that bottom of the overhead squat. So that's the squat snatch. All right, guys, let's go ahead and hit on the 3 movements here for the Bergeron beat test component, right? So the first movement is gonna be a thruster. So again, a thruster is basically 2 movements put together. It's gonna be a front squat, right, directly into a push press. So again, what that's gonna look like is, again, you start from the floor. Totally acceptable to do kind of a squat clean into a thruster for that first rep. Because it's only 75, again, prescribed for the men, 55 for the ladies. I only say only because from a scaling standpoint, that's a little bit lighter than what we usually do. You're probably in a good position to start with a squat clean thruster in the beginning. And then again, full depth at the bottom, blocking up at the top. One of the common faults I see is we kind of finish with our ears behind the bar. We want to make sure our ears are in front, fully extended at the top, blocking out all the way, straight elbows, head through. That's the thruster. Next is going to be the pull-up. So again, options, butterfly, kipping. Suppose you could do strict, wouldn't encourage it, but all things being equal, you could do strict pull-ups. What we're going to encourage today for modifications, depending on where you are, is we're going to avoid bands, simply because getting in and out of the band is a pretty big time element to it. So we're going to discourage the band for today, and we're going to encourage you to do your ring rows, like yesterday's video showed, outside on the rig where we're just pulling. Again, basically the back of the rings touching the front of our chest, or jumping pull-ups, right? So one of the questions I see in here, or I'm asked often, is, how do we set up an appropriate height for a jumping pull-up? So this, for me, actually works really well in terms of where we want to be. So you want to be able to have a bar that is about equal to your wrist, right? And all that does is just allow us to kind of sit, kind of get to that dead, kind of hang, full extension at the bottom, jumping to get up above it, right? So from here, jumping, getting our chin above the bar, making sure we get that full locked out position at the bottom, getting real heavy, jumping back up toward the top. Finally, everyone's best friend, the burpee. So because we're not doing burpee over the bar or burpee to a target, really be particular about the standard here. So what we're shooting for on the standard, right? Being transparent, it does get harder the more fatigued you get. But again, we want to make sure our hips, chest, touch the floor, right? 2 feet jump, and then from here, I need to make sure both of my feet leave the ground, followed with a hand clap at the top. So here, back down, back up. Notice my feet are getting up. You can hear that clap, right? Back down. We want to really avoid what we call kind of like flying squirrels, right? This number right here, it's no good. All right, make sure we're down, all the way back up. Yes, I'm counting those 5 burpees for my reps tomorrow. So, oh man. All right, guys, suggested warm-up for today. We'll go ahead and have you grab your bike just because we're going to be efficient, as you'll need that for the workout. So we'll do 7 calories on the bike, followed by 7 air squats. Again, air squats, especially those first few, be really intentional about going nice and slow, making sure our bottom gets below our hip crease, right? Followed by 7 empty barbell push presses. Then we'll do 7 kind of cobra dog transition, just get ready kind of for the burpees, right? So kind of let those hips sink into the floor, nice and heavy, be real slow, not in a huge rush here, kind of pushing back up, opening your shoulders, right? Back down. Okay, 7 cobra dog transitions. Make sure we'll grab a PVC pass-through or a PVC pipe to start. We'll do 10 PVC pass-throughs, and we'll go through that, kind of depending on how fast you move, 2 or 3 times before you and your group kind of start the clock for the strength. So again, as always, if you have questions, feel free to call, text one of the coaches. We'd be glad to help you kind of get set up. Have a good one, guys.